Ooh.
Nathan.
Hey, Katie.
Hello.
If you're seeing this on video, Nathan looks a hot mess.
We went to a Halloween party last night, and Nathan wore a lot of eye makeup, and he is still wearing some of it today.
Yeah, like 0.2% of what I was wearing yesterday, but I look terrible, and I love you guys.
You don't look terrible. You couldn't look terrible if you tried, Nathan. You just look a little special today. With your
special
eye makeup on a little bit still, and that's okay. I skinned my knee last night at the party.
How did you do that?
When we were leaving, so like I haven't worn heels all night like I did last night in a very, very long time. And when we were leaving, their walkway is like cobblestone, and my heel like got caught, and I just it's going down. I'm yelling timber. Like,
are you Kesha?
Sometimes, complete side note, sometimes at work, I have to look at TikTok to see like what people are saying on TikTok about my job. And every time I do it, I go, TikTok on the clock.
Oh gosh, yes. I am so proud of you.
Yes.
I feel like Kesha right now after a long night.
You know what? You are kind of channeling Kesha right now, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
I'm going timber.
It's going timber. Anyway, Nathan, well, at least we had fun last night. And we got to get together. We'll have some fun pictures on the Instagram from the party. But you know what I'm dying to talk about today, Nathan?
Oh, I already know because we left her off on part 1, and I have been dying to hear part 2 because, it's going to be so much better, guys.
It's Tina, bitch!
Yes!
Nathan, where did we last leave Miss Tina Turner?
So she is a huge music star, but she's been in this abusive, controlling relationship for 16 years with this dude named Ike. Maybe you've heard of him. And finally in Dallas, Texas, she's had enough. And she dramatically spins across the highway to freedom.
Yes! Hashtag free Tina! Pretty much right away. She does not waste any time. She files for divorce. I love this about Tina. I feel like consistently throughout her life, she knows what she wants, and she gets it. And when she decides, I want a divorce, like, she's filing.
She's done.
She's done. Now, if you remember, they were on tour when she left him. And so she's refusing to work with him anymore, like, in no way, shape, or form. She's like, and so she's canceling the tour. And since it's Tina's refusal to work that cancels the tour, she's the one that's financially responsible for the broken contracts.
Ooh.
And yeah, so she's just that done that she's like, I don't care. I'll figure out a way to pay it back. Whatever.
So Tina just knew that if she fought, that she'd have to spend more time in court, more money to do all this shit.
And have to see his fucking face.
Ugh, I don't want to see his face anymore. I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And the more time she spends in court, she has to, like, physically see him. And so she's tired with even being in the same room as this man. So she accepted the entire financial responsibility of canceling the tour dates.
Have you ever been like that? Like, I was thinking the other day, one time I broke up with someone and they technically owed me like $200 because we were like on the same cell phone plan. And back then, I mean, $200 is a lot of money, but back then $200 was a lot of money to me. But I was just so done that I was like, what the fuck ever. Have you ever been in that kind of just like, I just need to get out of this situation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, you're like, I'll cut my losses.
Yeah.
I think that's the term that you use.
If $200 is what I had to pay to be done with that man.
To be in this relationship. Yeah, I'm $200. Take your money, whore.
But if you'll remember, Tina doesn't have a fucking dime to her name. We talked about in the last episode, you know, in the 70s, women didn't necessarily have financial freedom in relationships. Men owned the banking accounts. So even though she has been busting her ass, working for 16 years without a break, remember she like worked right up until she gave birth, she does not have a dime to her name to show for it.
Yeah. Oh, like this is the whole thing back in the day. Like you remember RBG?
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That was her whole fight, was to get women to have open up bank accounts, to have credit cards in their names. And when they went to court, she said she didn't want financial support, which most people in her shoes would ask for alimony.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably ask for alimony. Like, she deserved it. Like, it's not her fault that none of the shit was in her name, but she was just so done with it. She's like, keep your money.
Yeah, but she knew that if she let Ike continue to see himself as supporting her, then he'd somehow manage to weasel his way in.
Sneaky snake back into her life,
Toxic, abusive relationship. You have got to cut those ties.
Yeah.
Do not let them have any say-so in your life, because they've had too much to begin with.
100%. So she told the judge, all I want is my name, which is so beautiful. Because remember, Ike had, I can't remember if it was trademark or copyright. I don't know the difference. He had legally owned the name Tina Turner. And she was just like, all I want is my fucking name. And the judge, and Ike was like, no, I trademarked that or whatever. But the judge was like, looking at, she is Tina Turner now. She has been Tina Turner. And so she got her name. How beautiful is that? That's like poetic to me.
Yeah, it's almost like the girl gets her name. So she also asked for her 2 cars.
Her 2 Jaguars. Her 2 Jags.
So she got the 2 cars and her name, bitch. And
that was it. That was it. And I mean, they made a shitload of money as the Ike and Tina Turner review. So yeah, like walking away with a famous name and 2 very expensive vehicles, you would think, oh, that's a win. But like on the grand scheme of things,
it was not a win.
What? I mean,
that wasn't a win. But I think she chose it because she knew, okay, I just got to walk away with this, with the bare minimum. With what if
I got to start from scratch on my own terms.
She basically said, what I want is my name and a couple cars.
And she got it, and she's like, okay, I'll go from here.
Yep.
Now, I wish that we could tell you that Tina walked away from that courtroom and was an overnight sensation as a solo act. But sadly, that's just not how things went. In fact, the first 2 years after she left Ike, she was on food stamps. Nathan, can you believe that? If you're not in the United States, food stamps is like government assistance to buy food because you're like below the poverty line. She's one of the most famous women in the world, and she was on. She was that low income. Isn't that wild?
Oh. After their divorce was final, Ike said, "Hey, let me help you out."
Oh, how nice of him.
After you fucking abuse me. Oh, great. Help me out now.
Yeah.
So he got her a house, paid for the first month's rent, and then left all 4 of their kids with her. He said, after a month, thanks, bro.
Thanks.
So that's why we were here, is I'm a babysitter.
Yeah.
So he said, after a month, you'll be coming back to me anyway. What?
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to pay for 1 month in this house because you're coming back after a month anyway. You're going to, and she was like,
excuse me, what?
She was like, LOL, thanks, bro. That is not happening.
Yeah, he was just like hell bent that she was going to be returning, but that's.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people thought back then. He's like, you're not going to be able to make it on your own. Look, you're at the poverty line. You'll be back anyway. You're going to see how hard it is with the 4 boys. And
that's so sick to be like, hey, I'm super abusive and I'm going to make you suffer more to realize that my abusiveness is better
than being
than
alone.
Ugh.
But she took the boys, and you have to remember, two of them were not biologically her children. She adopted them, but she was like, they were my children though. So I think that shows how ride or die she was for those boys. You know, she's just like,
Well, I mean, yeah,
they're her
she
children.
was responsible for them.
And in her book, she never said anything about like complaining about being the sole caretaker of the kids. Though, to be fair, one of them, they were all teenagers at this point, so they weren't babies. They were like, the oldest one was like 18 and the youngest one was like 15. Yeah.
Oh.
But still, can you imagine living with 4 teenage boys? I can just smell that house right now.
Ew, ew, ew. I got the smellums in my sinus area.
The smellums.
I can feel it in my sinus area right now.
Anyway.
But she had all them kids and refused to ask Ike for any sort of child support.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, I got this. I don't need him. I got to get to work.
You better work, bitch. But that's easier said than done, because every time she tried to get into a meeting with a record company, they were just like, where's Ike? It's not the Tina Turner review. It's the Ike and Tina Turner review. Like, they just were like, we're not seeing you as a solo act. Because she was almost 40, which back then, in an industry like the record industry, she was basically a corpse, you know, like.
Yeah. So, remember her best friend Rhonda from episode 1? Nah, Rhonda decides to move into the house, and she's like, okay, Tina, until you can get a real manager, I'm going to try to help you get back on your feet, girl. So let's think of some ways that other quote-unquote washed-up celebrities, because you're only 40. Right now, that's like the golden age.
I know. But yeah, she was considered like a nostalgic act. But like, so how are these other...
so now that you're nostalgia, let's get you some money, bitch.
Yeah, let's figure out how other nostalgic acts are making money. So, do you remember in our Betty White episode when we talked about how popular it was for celebrities to go on game shows in the 70s and 80s? Yeah,
Betty White was the queen of the game shows.
Queen of game shows. And Tina was like, I can do that. So, she went on Hollywood Squares a few times. But even in her first episode of Hollywood Squares, they're like, where's Ike? And it's so awkward. Because, I mean, obviously... people knew they were going through a divorce.
They know, yeah.
It's so like they were like, "Where's Ike?" And I watched this video of her just going. She's so graceful too. She's just like, "I don't know," and like just left it at that. And I was like, "Good for her for not like."
I would have been that person that would have been like, "He's probably beating up on some 20-year-old dumb."
Probably doing coke. Is what I would have.
Yeah, probably doing coke and beating up on some young chick. Like,
yeah,
I would have. Put his
making
ass on blast.
Some other woman miserable now, since he did have 14 wives in his lifetime.
Jeez. So I don't know, as the answer is very kind.
Yes, that was more graceful than I think I would have been. Yeah.
So at this time in the late 70s, lots and lots of celebrities had their own variety shows. Like, we had the Johnny and Marie Osmond show. We had the Sonny and Cher show.
Or just the Cher show after Cher left Sonny.
Yeah. And then we had like Carol Burnett. Like that's another one that just had their own variety show.
She's hitting the circuits of all those as well. I never watched. I think the only one I ever watched was the Carol Burnett show. I never watched the Sonny and Cher show. I never watched the... I don't know. I think
Just Share show.
Or the Just Share show.
Just Share.
Funny story. When Tina turned up to the Cher show before getting into her costume, Cher was like, "What the fuck are you wearing?" Because now that Tina isn't being controlled by Ike, when she's not on stage, she's going to dress what she's comfortable with. Because Ike would, like, even when she's not on stage, make her wear, like, sexy outfits. Like, if the paparazzi was... Not the paparazzi, because that wasn't really a thing then. But if the press was going to see them. But when she is now coming into her own, when she's just like doing her own thing, her preferred outfit is a pair of linen slacks, a silk blouse, and a string of pearls. And so she rocks up for like their first rehearsal, and Cher's like, "What are you wearing?" And she's like, "Tina Turner's a character. You know that, right?" And Cher was like, "Oh." Also, a funny thing that she talked about in her book, because you know how Cher was breaking up with Sonny?
Mm-hmm.
Ike wanted Sonny and Cher and Tina and Ike to go on tour together and like as like a divorced couples tour.
The divorcees.
Absolutely none of the other people in these set of people were into it, but Ike was like, "I think we got a hook here."
Of course he would.
Of course. Anyway.
But because Tina was such a different person when she wasn't in costume or on stage, she dressed conservatively. She didn't like curse. She was very modest. She didn't do drugs or drink. I mean, maybe a glass or two of champagne.
That's the
every
70s,
now
yeah.
and then. Yeah, but that shocked people.
Yeah.
That she was so reserved and not as wild as they thought she should be.
Exactly. So for the first few years, Tina is taking any gig she can get. And she is slowly dragging herself out of that debt with no help from Ike, which really pissed Ike off because his career was going nowhere. His reputation had really taken a hit. To bring it to contemporary, it reminds me a bit of Chris Brown a little bit. Like how his reputation, even though he's talented, his reputation and his temper and his history stop him from getting jobs. And it was the same thing with Ike because he was getting a reputation in the music industry for having a really bad temper and for being violent. And for having a drug problem, which all of these were true. So no one wanted to work with him. Though I was just
obviously
Ike Turner was a talented dude. Let's not get it twisted. He was, but talent only gets you so far when you're an absolute asshole, you know? When you are a liability to society. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't have time to go into all the details, but on more than one occasion, I tried to like strong arm Tina into at least working with him again.
This is so scary.
Oh, so scary.
Yeah.
He'd send dudes that were on his payroll to go like stand outside her house with guns to like threaten her.
What the fuck? Like just so she'd look out the window in the house that her children also live in. His children also live in. One time they woke up to gunshots, and so like Tina like tells her kids and stuff like go hide in the closet, and her and Rhonda like hold up until daylight and they go and look outside. They had shot out the windows in her and Rhonda's cars.
What?
Like what the
That is
how fucked up.
beyond abusive.
When she
like,
called
that is
the
like I'm going to kill you.
Yes. When she called the police the first time, though, they thought it was a prank call. Because wouldn't you too?
Yeah, like, oh, we got a call from Tina Turner. Shooting out the window.
Yes.
Ah!
Until finally she was like, can you just, for the love of God, send somebody out to this address? And when they finally showed up, they were like, oh shit, you're Tina Turner. And she's like, I know.
I've been saying it this whole time. I even got my name in court.
Oh my God. There's this story in her book about how she bought a gun. She's a Buddhist. She doesn't want to own a gun, but she thought she needed it for the protection of her and her own family. And like, yeah, like it just drove her to be absolutely paranoid, which, bleh.
So, hey, let's not talk about Ike Turner.
I don't want to talk about Ike Turner
like,
anymore.
For like the rest of the episode.
Almost
please.
the rest of the episode. Let's not talk about Ike Turner anymore. Let's get Tina back where she belongs, on top. Yeah. But first, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back to let you know how the rest of this story goes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you need a break?
Yeah, hold on just a second. I need to pee.
Okay.